There's also a lot of probing, as we mentioned, on, how this reflects on people, Andrew, and a concession, a reluctant one from Darryl Maguire on that.
Yes, again, I understand this relates to his view, the Berejiklian camp's defence, in that they will say Maguire was obviously not telling her about all that stuff. This evidence, you could argue, assists her in that he's saying that it reflects badly on her if she was to be implicated or knew about some of the sort of this stuff. This is the central part of the Berejiklian defence on this issue. I know she says she's not a person of interest at ICAC, but they seem to be asking an awful lot of questions about her. And aside from that, there's a bit of a situation with the public and the media wondering about her conduct. So, that's all up for debate, but this is her defence. On the other hand, I guess this evidence doesn't make it look good when she says, I don't need to know that, because that implies she knew something not fantastic was going on and should have done something about it. But have a listen.
There were things happening, as you know, around the place. I just didn't think she needed to know whatever it was we were talking about. It didn't need to be said.
So you're saying that the reason you used words of that kind was that you didn't want to burden with detail, as opposed to didn't want to burden her with information that might not reflect well on you or perhaps her?
I'd suggest her that wouldn't reflect well on her.
That was at least one aspect of why you drew the line at the amount of information that you would tell her, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
You were concerned that some of what you were doing might reflect badly on her, is that right?
It could, possible.
So that was part of Darryl Maguire today. Gladys Berejiklian, her evidence earlier in the week. Today at another news conference, which was rather spicy, Andrew Clennell, again, this don't need to know line was probed into and exactly what it really meant.
Yeah, and we're not getting much of an answer in connection with it. I think she just wants to stick to her ICAC evidence. Gladys Berejiklian's in a lot of trouble. Anyone in the state would say that, even her strongest supporters. And she thinks it's safest now to stick to the line, to stick to the evidence she gave. She doesn't expect to be called back. I'd be very surprised if she isn't called back after all this evidence. So it may be something she's probed on oath again. So, of course, she has to be careful about what she says now. This conversation with Darryl Maguire, you say, he says, William tells me we've done our deal. So hopefully that's about half of all that gone, referring to his $1.5 million debt. And you say, I don't need to know about that bit. Why did you say I don't need to know about that bit, Premier?
Oh, Mr Clennell, I answered those questions during 6 hours of public evidence on Monday, so I refer you to that.
Pretty direct moment in that news conference as well. Of course, Andrew Clennell being asked about people believing Gladys Berejiklian and what the line is for, when she might consider her position.
Frankly, the way Gladys Berejiklian's digging in, I think there could be an ICAC finding against her and she still wouldn't be going, Tom, and I think that was made clear here. There's no imminent resignation, that's for sure. You stood down Don Harwin because you said perception is everything. Why don't you stand aside until the end of this inquiry?
Because I've done nothing wrong.
So we're just supposed to believe you?
Well, I've done nothing wrong.
It's been really interesting this week. We saw initially, of course, Gladys Berejiklian, with a mea culpa, Andrew, regrets. Then it became all of her ministers, a lot of them coming out and very publicly backing her, almost to the hilt. I mean, there's got to be the caveat on depends what else comes out, I suppose. And she's gone on the attack since then.
Yeah, they're publicly backing her. I can tell you a lot of ministers aren't privately backing her. They're very concerned at what's been revealed in these hearings, but they're being called upon by her office to come out and publicly back her, and they are doing so. So, again, the question put as to whether you would resign and where and under what circumstances. When you said you weren't surprised at how much the land deal would reap on the phone call, didn't any part of you say this could end badly?
Look, I just ask you to refer to my public evidence, which was in full view over the course of 6 hours on Monday.
Do you still think it's okay for MPs to lobby for land deals while they're in the parliament?
Look, I've always said that I am more than happy to consider arrangements that increase the accountability with which MPs are held, and I'm always happy to consider recommendations.
You didn't want to know because he hadn't been appropriate with his disclosures, did you?
I'm sorry, I've already answered that question.
You didn't want to know, Premier, did you?
That is not correct.
You said you didn't want to know, Premier.
That is not correct.
What's the test for you to resign?
When I've done something wrong.
Now, there's evidence, of course, in the witness box and also evidence that's been presented, released online at ICAC, including visits to Wagga Wagga and even a lunch with Gladys Berejiklian, Darryl Maguire and a business associate of his. Yeah, and that's after the by-election campaign, after she denounces him, I guess. So, but we already knew, I mean, this is one of the concerns for the Premier, that she continued the relationship even after the corruption allegations came public from ICAC and Maguire was forced to resign in 2018. I asked her about, because I recall covering the Wagga by-election campaign. I interviewed the Premier when I was working for The Australian at that time. At that time, we both flew down in the morning and she flew down in the evening and flew back in the evening, should I say. But I was puzzled, and the Wagga Daily Advertiser actually critiqued how many times she'd come down compared to previous times. She came down 8 times during the campaign. So I guess I wanted to know, while she's presenting this public face, we're disowning Maguire, I'm campaigning for the seat, was she still having contact with Maguire? Was she still seeing Maguire during this period? The Australian's written a number of articles where her office has refused to answer really what's quite a simple question around this, so I asked her about it. In 2018, you went 8 times to the Wagga Wagga by-election campaign. On any of those occasions, did you see Darryl Maguire? How many?
I have always conducted my official business officially, and I've made that distinction very clear. Private is private.
So you didn't see him? Are you saying you didn't see him, Premier?
What I'm saying is that I've always conducted my business officially.
No, you're not answering the question, Premier, sorry. Are you saying...
Not to my recollection.
So, Andrew, where do we sit right now? As you said, there's obviously some private concerns by ministers. Clearly, Gladys Berejiklian has survived the week. This is the most explosive moment of it. What's your prediction for how all of this plays out now?
Well, it's impossible to predict, and you can get criticised for a prediction, but all I will say in relation to this, put on the spot by you, Tom, is what I said to you when I first heard about this on Monday and came on with you. And I said that I think maybe out of this, Gladys Berejiklian will have to resign. I can't say when. I can't say how. I just feel the momentum is building. ICAC are not going after a Premier in the fashion that they are unless they perceive there to be a problem there. I think it would be a little bit of a political miracle if she survives, Tom.